Thanks for joining us, everybody. As we mentioned, it's National School Resource Officer Appreciation Day, the first time that's ever been done. We know that school resource officers have responded to school shootings, saving lives. They've also helped stop threats before anybody got hurt. But they've also been involved in controversies using excessive force. Some have said they should be removed from all of our schools. No one armed there. Well, it is in that context that there is a heated debate here in Western New York about SROs in our largest school district. This after last week's shooting and stabbing at McKinley High School in Buffalo. We learned that the Buffalo City School District has only 10 officers to cover almost 70 different schools and more than 30,000 students. Many have argued that's not enough. Others disagree. And as we mentioned, some would prefer nobody be armed in our schools. What does Buffalo Common Council President Darius Pridgen think of all of this? And what's next for the council in making our schools safer? He joins us now live. Reverend Pridgen, it's great to have you on. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Great to be here.
So let's start with that question about school resource officers. Where do you stand on that? I mean, I think last week when we found out that there are 10, a lot of people thought, you know, there are some suburban rural school districts that have a school resource officer for just one high school. They're there all the time. Obviously, Buffalo is our largest district and only 10 of them. Do you think that we need more? And do you think that that could help deal with some of the violence in schools? Not just what happened at McKinley, but, you know, what we've seen in other schools as well.
You know, I think it needs to be evaluated. It needs to be evaluated with the backdrop of 2022. No system is perfect. You know, 2 years ago, we heard from people saying we don't want anybody in our schools with guns. But at the end of the day, I think we have to listen to parents and students, because to me, it's more than just the guns. It's about relationships. And if we have SROs in, it's not just enough to put a officer in a school with a gun on their hip if they don't have any conversation with students or relationship with students. So I think it needs to be evaluated from the backdrop of what we are dealing with presently across the United States, but especially in Buffalo.
We spent some time today looking at other upstate urban school districts to kind of compare. Syracuse has way more school resource officers per capita, and Rochester did as well. But that district actually recently got rid of all of the school resource officers. It was kind of, as you mentioned, amid some of these calls that you know, people didn't want them in schools anymore. Some of the Black Lives Matter protesters calling for that. How do you think that is going to balance out? And if we don't have enough school resource officers in our schools, we've heard from, you know, the superintendent saying one thing, the mayor saying another. What is the council's role in trying to find out what that right number is?
Well, you know, the council today had an education meeting. Dr. Cresses was there. Other people were on that call to look at and to say the city is here. I said that night of the McKinley incident that this is not a time for finger pointing. People want all levels of government to work together. And so where the council is right now, and I said it earlier in the meeting, we need from the Board of Education, from Buffalo Public Schools, to come to us and say what it is that they need. They said that they have had a great relationship working with the mayor through this and really trying to balance out that resource officer situation. I think regardless of what you do, let's be honest, if we have the police there, the SROs there, and there's going to be people who say we don't want it. If we don't have it, and then you have a shooting, there's people saying why don't we have enough? And that's why it's a balancing act. But one of the most important voices that I think have to be listened to are parents and students, because it's easy to say from the outside when you don't have to go into a school building and you don't have to deal, oh, this is what we want. But if you're not there every day and you're not dealing with these situations, then you really don't know what some of these schools are dealing with right now.
Reverend Pridgen, the violence in our schools obviously goes beyond something that police could handle on their own, right? We know that there are, you know, cultural things that have to be addressed here. There are some outside groups that say they would like to come in and help. How much do you think that should be a part of this solution? Community groups coming in and being involved as well?
Yeah, so today in our meeting with Buffalo Public Schools, I mentioned that I think that somewhere here there needs to be working groups of people. I know that the superintendent, we were informed today, has a town hall coming up, but usually, and I'm glad he is, by the way, usually that's people speaking at a mic, the superintendent talking back, or somebody from the administration. This is a period when you're talking about the most important asset we have, and that's our children, and what they need most is an education where community has to work together. I was very frustrated during the McKinley incident, hearing person after person saying everybody needs to work together. Here's my question. What does that mean? Who leads that? But it has to go from talking to working together. And that should not happen in a year or 2 years. It needs to happen now.
It's definitely a conversation that a lot of parents are having, and this really does go beyond just the city of Buffalo. Conversations, in all of our other districts as well. We appreciate you coming on. Reverend Darius Pridgen is the president of the Buffalo Common Council. Good to see you, sir.
You too. Thank you.